places telling stories, hidden histories of campus and community. So our research project is part of a larger research cluster on public history funded by the Illinois Program for Research in the Humanities and convened by students and faculty from a range of departments at UIUC and history practitioners from the broader community. Our discussions have been informed by the growing number of student movements in the U.S. and globally that have challenged the memorialization of racism in campus landmarks and spaces. So in our research, we seek to analyze and understand the forms of public meaning making that shape our campus spaces and that shape the relationship between our university and the publics it was founded to serve. So on the subject, sources, and methodology, we look specifically at the activism of students from underrepresented communities on this campus. And we have conducted our research through the use of the Student Life and Culture Archives at UIUC, specifically looking at student publications and official documents, and through the oral histories we have conducted with alumni and community members. And our project is informed by theories of space, particularly the one presented in Don Mitchell's book, Right to the City. And through his theory of space, we understand that political theorists who enthusiastically discuss the value of community most often do so as a realm of unity and mutual understanding. But this actually does not adhere with the actual experience of public space. In public space, one usually always first encounter with those who are different, and those who are different might necessarily be struggling for a space in that place in that public. So the first site, the one I studied particularly was the quad, and I use the quad as in understanding it as a site of resistance, and we can begin to understand it. We understand it generally as being accessible to all students and welcoming of all students, but in reality, students have used it as a site to contest local and popular understandings of who gets to belong in that space, specifically the university and the actual quad. So during October of 1991, 250 African American, Latino, Latina, Native American students protested the national celebration of Columbus Day. Instead, they asked that it be recognized as People of Color Genocide Day. And these protests happened also in 1992 and in 1993. And in the 1992 and 1993 protests, you also saw Asian American students and Palestinian students coming together with the other coalition of students. And they held signs like these that of Columbus with a bullet shot in his head with the wanted. And while students were critiquing the celebration of this national holiday, they also took it as an opportunity to critique the ways in which the university failed to address their needs, especially as students of color or students of other marginalized populations. Students presented a list of demands to the university, which included creating a Latino-Latina Studies program, a Native American Studies program, and Cultural Center, and they asked for more funds to be allocated to the African American Studies program and Cultural Center. So we see a use of space that is purposeful and indeed is indicative of the ways in which public space is not for everyone. So students take over these spaces in order to become visible. The quad, however, isn't just used for local social justice issues. On March 11, 1971, a group of students began protesting at the Illini Union to demand the university boycott lettuce in order to support the farm workers movement that was happening in California. They did this over the span of the week at the union and what is described in student publications as the Commons. It is unclear whether the university did stop buying scab lettuce, but what is clear is that students have also used public space to create strong links between national and local activism.
A picture of the boycott. So my focus was on Native American issues and activism. And while the story of Native peoples on this land and on this campus began far before 1989, this is where I start my project, when Charlene Teeters and a few other Native students began protesting the chief as a symbol of the university. She and other members of Native American Students for Progress would protest outside sporting events and chief tryouts, holding signs that said Native Americans are human beings, not mascots. The administration would be unresponsive for 18 years. During that time, the administration agreed to support Native American Student Organization in planning the Circle of Honor powwow in 1996 and 1997. The students enjoyed having a powwow, however, they realized that it was used by the administration as a way for them to be silenced, and their demands for increased retention, a cultural center, and a Native American Studies department to be silenced. So after 2 years of the Circle of Honor powwow, they decided to discontinue it because it was a form of silencing from the administration. Through continued struggle, the students were finally able to get rid of Chief Illini mascot in 2007. However, so this is the last dance of the chief was in February 21st, 2007. However, he continues to make appearances at games and rallies. And this is the mass mail that was sent, which I got through an archive, which actually says nothing about the decision. It just says if you want to see the decision, you can click on a link to go to a website that no longer exists. However, the story of the chief and mascots continues past 2007 and into the present. In 2009, 2 years after the chief had been retired as our mascot, an art installation called Beyond the Chief by Hawk E.A. Edgar Heap of Birds, who is Cheyenne and Arapaho, was put in on Nevada Street. The exhibit included 12 signs that looked like the one on the slide behind me, which said Fighting Illini backwards, to kind of symbolize a backwardness of the university. Today's Your Host Is, and would then include the name of 12 Native nations that used to make their home on this land. The art installation, however, underwent 9 waves of vandalism in its less than a year of being up. This includes having 8 panels vandalized or damaged and having 2 panels stolen, only one of which was recovered. And the student who was caught and recorded only served 100 hours of community service and had to write an apology letter to the artist, whose art was appraised at $300. However, his proposal was $10,000 each, because even though they looked like signs, it was still a piece of art, and you would never say that a piece of art is only worth $300, especially an installation this large. And even into this semester, which is 28 years after the initial protest began and 10 years after the official removal of the chief, we still see the chief everywhere on campus. And this unofficial NASO, Native American and Indigenous Student Association, held a campaign that would allow students to trade in their racist chief gear for an Illini shirt without questions. While they did not receive a large amount of trade-ins for shirts, this resurged a new and strong conversation about the chief and what he represents. This is by no means an exhaustive list of Native student activism, but I hope that it highlights and makes visible Native activism and Native students on this campus.
My name is Hannah Gutierrez, and I will be focusing on intergenerational Latino-Latina activism and what is considered hidden history. In promotional materials sent out to prospective students, the Inclusive Illinois Promise is prominently advertised. However, it is unclear how that commitment to diversity would manifest itself in the physical spaces on campus. Often, new and returning students of color say that they see themselves as newcomers on campus, that they cannot relate to the history of the university. When they walk through the quad, the union, the main library, they do not see clues that they have had an established presence there. As part of its commitment to diversity, the university could choose to uplift the history of marginalized student activism and how their work is the reason there is a change in student demographics. I focused on the history of Latina student activism from the late 1960s to the present day, with a particular focus on the spaces on campus where activism has manifested. In 1974, La Casa, back then 510 East Chalmers Street, was formed due to the efforts of student organizations such as Urban Hispanics and the Council for Higher Education for the Spanish-Speaking, who continuously met with university administration to demand visibility and support. These Latino students wanted to create a public space for Latino students so that they would not be invisible in the student population and that their needs and demands could not be easily ignored. Don Mitchell writes in the book, The Right to the City, Social Justice and the Fight for Public Space, quote, by claiming space in public, by creating public spaces, social groups themselves become public, end quote. Latina student organizations demanded an increase in recruitment and retention of Latina students and faculty. While their demands were slowly addressed, alumnus Oscar Martinez led a student group in 1975 to paint murals in the main room of La Casa. These murals were a visceral manifestation of the Latino student movement that continued to demand that their needs be met by the university. Intergenerational Latina activism has long been a practice at the University of Illinois. In the early 1990s, Latino students demanded the creation of a Latina Studies program and a larger cultural center for the growing Latina student population. These students chose to protest on the Quad and the Henry Administration Building. They faced police brutality from the orders of the university administration. Students were able to organize effectively, in part because they had the student organizers from the 1970s come and mentor them. Today on campus tours, when prospective students walk through the Quad and through the Henry Administration Building, they are not told of these incidents. They do not celebrate the fact that student activism directly resulted in new departments being created and La Casa being relocated to Nevada Street in 1995. The university has partially conceded giving into the demand of student protesters, but they silence the history of their anger and activism. How will the university acknowledge the history of Latino student activism on campus as part of its commitment to celebrating diversity?
Hi, and I'll be speaking very briefly about the link between campus and community, focusing on the red herring. The red herring exists as a space on campus that has existed for radical activism away from the university, both since its inception in the 1960s, and is fundamentally a place where campus and community work together for a common goal. Operated by the First Universalist Church in Champaign-Urbana, the current location was proposed by the church in 1918, and the Murray Foundation was incorporated in 1948. In Illinois, the General Assembly passed the Clayball Act in July of 1947. The act prohibited any official from the University of Illinois from extending university facilities to, quote, any subversive, seditious, and un-American organization or to its representatives. The Channing Murray Foundation, in response, used its coffee house, colloquially known as the Red Area, in 1967 as a direct response to this measure, renting out the space to student groups such as the Student Forum for Dissent. The very name, the Red Herring, comes from a term during the McCarthy era to denote something being accused of communist, which was really not. In the spring of 1978, abuse by narcotics agents occurred in the harassment of the church, but also the first black minister, Renford Gaines, began to lead the congregation, who would then later be integral to the creation of the Afro-American Studies program in 1970. The existence of such a space, such as the Red Herring, over the past 60 years has played a key role in student activist movements over the year, particularly in the cases of Project 500 and its ideological successor, Project 1000. To quote our comrade who cannot be here, during the summer of 1968, the university administration worked to recruit more black students to come to the University of Illinois over the following school year, which colloquially became known as Project 500. However, once these students were brought onto campus, tensions started mounting between them and the university administration, due in part to the lack of financial aid and promised housing, promised these students when they were recruited. Another issue these students had was that they were not assigned permanent housing. They were temporarily given rooms in Illinois Street Residence Hall, and after a week of staying there, were relocated to rooms that were not suited for living, let alone studying. In response to this, students organized a march which happened on September 9th to protest the administration's failures to keep promises. Beginning at ISR, the march proceeded down Green Street. A small riot broke up afterwards with some damage done to ISR furniture and the arrest of 248 students. Project 1000 is the ideological successor to Project 500 and demands that the University of Illinois fund 1,000 black freshmen by the year 2020. In 1968, 568 black students were enrolled. In 2016, there were 548. In closing, the hidden histories that we've managed to collect on our time here are something that we believe should be discussed as integral to the larger history of the University of Illinois. Narratives do not merely appear, but are constructed and decided over generations, and some are forgotten, either by happenstance or even willfully. However, with this said, we strive to be more transparent with the limitations of our work. Even if we are nominally doing public history, we aren't sure what truly constitutes something as public. We strive to engage the community more and on tours, but it's something that we strive to do, but we have struggled to incorporate, which speaks to also larger institutional problems. We believe that technology such as Facebook Live and being able to stream and the collection of our work on a website are tools to help our work be more accessible to those who cannot directly be there on tour. We also believe that there are many stories that are yet to be explored, but by virtue of being 4 undergraduate scholars, it is something that we have to be consciously aware of, that the stories that we have chosen are deemed important to us, and there are more. As we continue to follow this project over the next year, we hope that those who follow in our steps will continue to follow our ideas and explore their own, but also recognize the limitations in our work. Thank you. Oh, thank you.